Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Backfiring your retirement. Show number 2 is coming up. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The WorryFree Retirement, with offices in Louisville and Bowling Green. Your host, 5-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Last week, we began a 4-part series on the potential dangers of handling financial instruments that could backfire on you during retirement. Our first warning shot over the financial bow was the long-standing advice coming from Wall Street and other financial pundits that we're all supposed to just blindly max out our 401k plans, meaning no matter your situation, no matter how much you make or what your current future tax brackets and all that stuff might be, you are supposed to just blindly throw as much of your hard-earned money as you can into that 401k plan in hopes, in hopes that one day you will save on taxes. Well, last week we discussed the future headaches that can be come about by maxing out your 401k, and today we're going to deal with a backfiring strategy number 2, one that in my humble opinion is the greatest myth of all, assuming this, that you won't need life insurance in retirement. Well, welcome folks to the WorryFree Retirement. I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And with us as always in the studio producing the show is America's favorite financial sidekick, a new father of 3, by the way, Mr. Aaron Orander, and of course, along with his favorite sidekick, Matt Stebbins. All right, a quick pop quiz on this March 5th, 2019. Here we go. Of all the insurance policies you currently own or could own and are spending your hard-earned money on, which of these policies, here's the key word, is guaranteed, again, let me repeat, guaranteed to one day pay you back all the money you paid to the insurance companies for these policies, plus pay you back the interest on that money that they've been holding? Is it A, health insurance, B, car insurance, C, homeowners insurance, D, long-term care insurance, E, term life insurance, I know this is a bunch, folks, hold on, F, permanent life insurance, G, none of the above? Well, if you answered F, permanent life insurance, you are correct. Because when you think about all of these other insurance policies that you could own, health insurance, car insurance, homeowners insurance, long-term care insurance, and even, yes, the El Cheapo term life insurance that everybody keeps hawking, there is no guarantee. Listen, folks, this is really important. There is no guarantee that you will ever have a claim against any of these type of insurance policies. A claim being defined as there's no guarantee that the insurance company is going to be out of pocket to pay you back all the premiums they've been taking from you. Now, this reality means that whenever you purchase the aforementioned policies, here's the deal, you run the risk of them backfiring on you because you never collect on them. You lose not only the premiums you paid to the insurance company, remember last week we talked about opportunity cost, but you lose all of the opportunity cost you could have had you kept that money in your pocket. Let's use an example here. You own a $100,000 home and you're afraid of it burning down or, a tornado hitting it. Unfortunately, the date of this recording, devastation in Alabama with huge widespread swath of a tornado that just destroyed about a 1 square mile area of that area. So we're not making light of it, but just bear with me. Okay, so you don't want to risk the $100,000 home, right, in case it burns down or a tornado hits it. So instead, you turn over some money to the insurance company to take over that risk in case something happens to your home. Now, in this example, they're going to request $1,000 a year to insure the home. With me so far? So let's say you have the homeowner's insurance with this company for 40 years. You give them $1,000 a year for 40 years in exchange for the peace of mind of knowing that if, remember, if this may not happen, if the home burns down, you collect $100,000. So again, that's $40,000 you've handed over to the insurance company for the promise that they might have to pay $100,000. But if nothing happens, guess what? That's right, they get to keep the $40,000, plus, as we're going to find out, they've been earning interest on it, making money on your money. But Tony, you say, what are you telling me, to drop all my insurance? I don't want to risk something happening to this home and have to come up with $100,000. Heck, even if I had $100,000 in the bank, I'd rather transfer the risk to the insurance company. So are you saying, Tony, I'm just wasting my money on this homeowner's insurance? No, that's not what I'm saying. And I'm certainly not suggesting you cancel your homeowner's policy even if you have $100,000 in the bank. That's not what we're saying. We're just trying to understand how insurance companies work and to just drive home this point that there's no guarantee that you'll ever collect on any of these insurance except permanent life insurance. Why is that? Well, here's the deal. Permanent life insurance means that the premium is guaranteed to never go up, and that when you die, not if you die, folks, when you die, the insurance company is guaranteed to pay a death benefit that's more than you placed into the policy to your loved ones. And by the way, this death benefit is completely tax-free. Remember, tax-free as we get into the whiteboard later. So let's keep fast forwarding then, and let's stay with the theme of life insurance. Let's say you've been listening to somebody on the radio or reading articles and you're worried, you're at a younger age and you're worried that you might die in the young age. So you buy life insurance and you go out here and you buy what's called a term insurance policy, all right? And let's say it's $100,000 just to kind of stay in line with the homeowner's example. So you take the money to buy the insurance, and let's say that's $500 a year or whatever it is, and you spend that money for the $100,000 policy, and the problem is you may not collect on it, right? Because in 20 years, what if you're still alive? Well, let's do this. You might say, but Tony, I hadn't thought about this. I may spend all this money. As I get older, the premiums will go up, right? Absolutely, they're going to go up because insurance companies know you're getting closer to death. So what am I supposed to do? Well, let's kind of dissect what we're thinking about here. So we know we're going to die. We know that a permanent life insurance policy is going to pay off at some point. So we're going to throw another pop quiz at you to help us think through this. So here's the pop quiz. If today only the government announced, you're just sitting here, on watching TV or whatever, after this show, you're on one of these news shows, and all of a sudden it pops up that the government, for today only, is going to give away free life insurance. And you laugh and say, hey, when are they going to do that? And I say, hey, the politicians today are starting to give away free stuff. Who knows? Maybe one day it's life insurance. But anyway, remember, this life insurance would be free. So here's what they're going to do. They ask you, here's the response, Mr. Jones, if we're going to give you free life insurance, how much would you like? Would it be A, $50,000 of coverage, B, $100,000 of coverage, C, $1 million of coverage, or D, you might respond, hey, wait a minute, if it's free, I'll take as much as I can get. So again, assuming they were giving away free life insurance, surely you would answer D, as much as I can get. So it really isn't about whether we think life insurance is a good idea. The problem is paying for the darn stuff, right? Well, here's what's going to happen. When I come back, we're going to be talking about, number one, a question at one of my workshops that was very important. And then after I answer that question, we're going to get the whiteboard out and show you something very interesting. I'm going to tie back in the first backfiring mistake of maxing out your 401k, and I'm going to show you why that might be the worst thing you can do and how permanent life insurance could be the ticket to having your cake and eating it too. You stay tuned. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for recently moved or been acquired or closed its doors forever? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k to safer territory. Why continue to risk your hard-earned money when you don't have to? Let's meet in person today to discuss your retirement options. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your no-obligation appointment to meet with me in person. Do it today.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Our Tony in the Trenches question actually comes from a workshop I hosted a couple of weeks ago on tax planning, Roth conversions. Incidentally, tonight we're going to host, today is March 5th, 2019. Tonight we are sold out. We're going to host a powerful documentary called The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming. It looks like we're going to try to host it in Bowling Green as well. We got expected 140 people showing up tonight in Louisville. We've rented a movie theater, and again, we'll try to do this in South Central Kentucky. But for those of you that are anxious to see this movie and couldn't, a little special offer today only, all right? If you go to the website, this is the first 5 people. Go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. The first 5 people that provide our information, confidential information, we will mail you a free DVD of that movie, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming. Anyway, so the question kind of was like this. We were talking about how to not run out of money, what to do with the Roth conversions, how to invest it, and I'd brought up that we do a lot of annuity work, and apparently I had mentioned during the workshop that we have fixed interest rates currently of about 3.7% guaranteed. So at the end of the workshop, as I always do, I opened up the floor for questions, and a gentleman had taken note of that, and he said, "Hey, Tony, I realize you're one of the top annuity producers in the country, so I believe what you say when you say these insurance companies are paying around 3.7, but I got to tell you, I met with an agent the other day, and he said he can get me 5.5% guaranteed." And I had to laugh. You ain't going to get 5.5%. That's called an income rider. It's a whole different thing than a yield, okay? So you've got to understand this, folks. By the way, incidentally, this little booklet, why don't you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. If you own an annuity, somebody's been pitching an annuity to you recently, download this booklet, The Annuity Decision Guide for Savers. Folks, I've used my 35 plus years and all these annuities I've written to help you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Annuities are not right for everybody, but for savers, the right type of annuity can be great in terms of retiring and making sure that you don't run out of money and keeping your risk down. But anyway, in this example, this 5.5%, that is not a yield. That's a totally different thing that I'll share with you in the booklet. So again, folks, what I would suggest doing, if you own an annuity, thinking about buying an annuity, why don't we sit down, go over how annuities work, and see which annuity is right for you. I will say this, we're going to cover this next week when we get into our show about how savers are being enticed to leave Main Street and head over to Wall Street. What you're going to find out next week, we're going to reaffirm that an annuity is the only thing that's guaranteed. We've been talking about guarantees all day long here today. Guaranteed to make sure you don't run out of money. Okay, so what we're going to do, let me set the stage. When I come back, I'll get the whiteboard out, but here's the thing. Last week, we talked about this notion that everybody tells you to max out your 401k, but there's a lot of problems with this. So let's just go full screen here, and I'm just going to list some of the problems with maxing out your 401k to refresh our memories a little bit. Number one, as we're putting money into a 401k, the money, up until certain points in our life, is really not accessible. That's a problem. Number two, assuming you're like most people in a 401k, the majority of the options, or where most people put all their money, is in the stock market. So really what's happening is, unlike a pension plan like my granddad had that was guaranteed, you're basically investing money for the future that is not guaranteed. Number three, the other problem with a 401k plan and maxing it out is you have no tax diversification. Everybody talks about being diversified. Well, the problem with this is, kind of leads to our next point is, you have a tax tumor. And the more you fund that 401k, the larger the tax tumor is going to grow. The next problem with the tax tumor is, when you die, it does not go away, folks. That tax tumor is passed off to your kids or whoever you're going to leave it to, and then they got to deal with it. And finally, as we talked about in the movie The Power of Zero, and what we're trying to at least alert people to, is basically in the future, we have no clue what the tax rates will be. So potentially, you could be deferring all of this money, not have any access to it, taking all this risk, all these fees, and one day you could be actually in a higher tax bracket. So how do we deal with this? How do we combat this notion? And how do we bring in permanent life insurance to make sure that we actually have more money to enjoy during retirement and more money to pass on tax-free, not if, when we die? You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'm going to get the whiteboard out. Some good stuff coming up.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Last week we talked about the first backfiring strategy, and that's maxing out your 401k. So we're going to take that strategy and dovetail that into the second backfiring strategy, not having permanent life insurance in retirement. So what we've done here, we're imagining that we would like to insure your 401k. And you say, well, how do we do that, Tony? I'm going to show you. So in this example, this particular person is maxing out their 401k. This would be their contribution, $20,000 a year. And let's say their employer is putting in $4,000 a year. That's the match. So let's say today they have a nice 401k of $500,000. That's a lot of money. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to just calculate a future value roughly. We don't know what it would be because it's not guaranteed. But let's be optimistic. And they haven't needed this money. They wait till 70 and a half. That's the age you have to start drawing money out. And that 401k has grown to $1.5 million. So we went over a 20-year period. Okay, you with me so far? Now, in the meantime, this person also went out and purchased some term life insurance. And we just came up with a premium of $1,500 a year. It's a 20-year term, meaning the premium's guaranteed for 20 years. But after 20 years, this person will more than likely have no life insurance, but they've been led to believe they won't need life insurance in retirement, so who cares, right? So let's see what happens here. What are all the potential problems with this strategy? Well, first of all, we don't know if that $1.5 million is going to be there because it is a non-guaranteed amount. Folks, that's just on paper, right? I mean, you could get ready to start drawing money out and the market plummet 38% like it did in 2008. So there's no guarantees on that. You could still have fees on this. You obviously have the tax tumor on this, so that $1.5 million, that's really not all your money. Plus, as we've been talking about using the movie The Power of Zero, what if the tax rates go up to 40% one day? Well, that $1.5 million is going to be obliterated by taxes. Also, what happens at death? The problem at death, you lose the life insurance, okay? Plus, your heirs have taxes on all this money. So the tax tumor gets passed off to them, and then we have to take the opportunity cost of that, which basically is $30,000 down the drain, plus the interest you lost, plus you don't get the $500,000 tax-free that you can pass off to your family. Now again, we're not saying to do away with the 401k plan, folks. We're just trying to think of the economics with all of this. We're wondering why the life insurance is so cheap. We found out we know why now because the insurance companies know they're probably not going to have to pay on it, so they take that money and invest it and use it. Then you got all this uncertainty of the 401k. So the question is, why are you buying term life insurance and maxing out your 401k? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to flip this whiteboard around magically through the power of television, and here we go. So what we did here, we instead of taking $20,000, we put $8,000 a year. So we're still doing the 401k. Why did we do that? Because we want the match. Okay, that's great. So we take the $500,000, okay, and again, this is all hypothetical, and instead of having $1.5 million, we have $1 million. And you say, well, Tony, this looks like we're going backwards. What's the problem here? Well, what we did was we took the difference. Remember, there was $20,000 originally going. Now we're only putting in $8,000. We're going to take that same $12,000 a year and invest in a permanent $500,000 life insurance policy. And you say, well, Tony, if I take that money out, won't I owe taxes? To an extent, but here's what we're going to do. Since we're going to drop the term in this case, that $1,500 a year will be recaptured. So we'll get over time our $30,000 plus interest. Here's the best part. Plus when you turn 70 and a half, in this example, since it's permanent, that policy in this example would be paid up not only are there no more premiums due on this example, but the $500,000 is guaranteed to be paid, not if you die, when you die, and it's completely tax-free. So you say, but Tony, I've only got $1 million in my 401k. See, this is the best part, folks. You've got to understand something. When you get into retirement, if you do not have permanent life insurance, there's all kinds of things. I see this as a retirement specialist. Folks, we have over 2,500 clients. Half of those are already in retirement. So I see this stuff play out. Health problems, nursing homes, wayward children, special needs, all of these things can come up. And what we want to do, we want to actually spend, here's the philosophy of the worry-free retirement that's so different from the financial world. We want to spend and enjoy all of this money, all of it. And we can show you how to spend and enjoy all of it without the fear of running out. So we enjoy our money. We never run out of money. When we die, in this example, let's say we've spent it all at the date of our death. We have no taxes because that tax tumor's gone. But guess what we leave? $500,000 tax-free. So why in the world, folks, wouldn't you want to have access to your money, use and enjoy it, try to keep the taxes down, and more importantly, if we could get the insurance at less premiums, remember we said earlier, why in the world wouldn't you want more of it? Here's all you got to do. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Let's sit down. Let's review your entire situation to see if it makes more sense to do something like this rather than just blindly throwing your money into these 401k plans. Well, what does the Bible have to say about death, about paying things, about owing things? Some really good, encouraging words from Scripture. But first, I got to get me a cup of coffee. You stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Tired of the financial world chasing after your money? Dinner seminar invitations? Annoying pop-up ads on your computer from out-of-state advisors? It all adds up to confusion. There is a better way. Meet in person with nationally recognized retirement specialist Tony Walker. Tony's personal one-on-one approach has helped thousands of savers worry less about money, and best of all, Tony's right in our own backyard. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Make the short drive to meet in person with Tony now. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement with the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
There's an incident of a very, very healthy man, apparently in his late 30s, who unexpectedly fell over dead due to an apparent heart attack. The cause of death was shocking to the community since this man was a well-known local fitness instructor who was in great shape. Apparently he exercised constantly, always ate the right foods. He was a picture of help. So as you can imagine, as it is always, it was quite shocking at the funeral as everyone tried to figure out how such a man in such good health and good condition could die of a heart attack. So apparently as people were walking up to the open casket and awkwardly gazing down on him lying in this open casket, a person was overheard to proudly proclaim, "My, doesn't he look healthy?" Well, he might have looked healthy, but folks, he was certainly dead, which has been the topic of today's show. This notion that we are all going to die. So with this in mind, what is the cost of dying, or as it pertains to life insurance, what is the cost to protecting our assets for our loved ones? And regardless of whether we spend our hard-earned money on term life or permanent life insurance, both do come with a cost. They aren't free. Well, when it comes to life and death, it might surprise you to know that God offers a solution to this age-old question of the cost of dying, and ironically, it is found in Romans 5:12. Romans 5:12 simply states, just as through one man, he's talking about Adam here, sin entered into the world, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all men have sinned. So what Paul is saying is when Adam sinned in the garden, his sin brought about this notion of death. And not just death to Adam because of his one sin, but because of that one sin, death spread to all of us because we too now are guilty of sin. So in other words, because we sin, the only remedy for eradicating sin is death. Folks, you're not going to be able to escape death. So no matter how hard we work out, no matter how good we eat, and Christian, listen carefully, no matter how hard we work to please God, the fact remains, one day we're all going to die because we're all sinners. So if we stopped at this verse and said, well, boy, that's real depressing, Tony, thanks a lot, and just closed up our Bible, I would say depressing indeed. But that's not what the Bible is all about. The Bible's full of good news, because let's slide on down to verse 15 to see what it says about this whole death thing. It says, but the free gift, that's eternal life, is not like the transgression, talking about the transgression of Adam. For if by the transgression of the one, that again is Adam committing this one sin, many died, in other words, death spread to everybody because of this one tragic incident, that's the death of the human race. Much more, look what it says, did the grace of God and the gift by the grace of the one man, Christ Jesus, abound to the many, meaning all of human race. So what Paul is saying is, you and I are not responsible for the original sin committed by Adam that caused death to not only Adam but to us. He died because of sin, and so must we. Yet, here comes this man Christ, and through God, by God's grace, would have him to die on our behalf. Why? Because God knew that if Christ died, we through Christ would have victory over sins, and we could live forever. In other words, He conquered death for all. Talking about a newfound freedom and a newfound faith, and best of all, folks, unlike all this insurance we've been talking about, this is absolutely free. In fact, in Romans 6:23, Paul emphasizes again, for the wages of sin is death. In other words, your payment for all this time, you're going to die, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ. So friend, the moral of the story is, you may not have life insurance, you may not be able to afford life insurance, worse yet, due to health, you may not even be able to get it. But in your situation, regardless of where you are, even if you're on your deathbed, there is always hope. Well, you may be sitting there saying, Tony, okay, that's all well and good. Let's get back to how I hope I can use and enjoy my money, and how I hope I can try to leave something to my kids or somebody tax-free. How am I going to do that? Well, that's the best part. I can help with that part. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, unlike a lot of advisors who won't meet with you in person or give you any of the recommendations in writing, I will. In fact, I'll either talk to you by phone or over an appointment warrants. I can meet with you in our Bowling Green or Louisville, Kentucky office. By the way, you over there in Lexington on LAX, we just started over there. That's my old childhood stomping ground in Lexington. Make the short drive to Louisville. I guarantee you I'll make it worth your while. All we'll do at this first appointment is just sit down and visit. So whether you've got a 401k that needs to be rolled over, money languishing in the bank, maybe you're looking at, should I be doing Roth conversions? What do I do about these 70.5 distributions? And of course, what about life insurance? Is that something, Tony, do I need to look at more permanent life insurance instead of just throwing my money away on all this term life? We can help. Again, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Log on today. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's program. I'll see you next week when we talk about the third thing that can backfire on your retirement, taking savers from the safety and security of Main Street over to the risk and uncertainty of Wall Street. You'll want to check this out next week. Between now and then, you remember though, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.